if you really want to know the truth, I don't want this on paper.
Yeah.
On the news. I shouldn't say all these nice things about him. His wife will have to get a shoe spoon to help him get his hat on. You know, his head will get too big. Because I know everybody out there is telling what a nice guy he is. He was every bit of that, but I don't want to be, JB didn't want to tell him that. That ruined my image with him. I tried to treat everybody the same. That's my main, I mean, I didn't care if your dad was a millionaire or a pauper, you got treated the same. Well, I'd have to go clear back to my mom and dad. My dad was one of those that took care of the poor. And well, I can tell you one incident where to prove that. And we were riding in a wagon back then, you know. But he'd gone to town to get some groceries. We were poor as church. Nobody was any poorer than we were. But on the way home, we came by a lady's house. And the little girl came out and said, "Mom, I'm hungry." And of course, we were on our way home. And Mom said, "Well, we don't have anything but some onions to cook on." Well, Dad unloaded half of our groceries right there. And of course, my mama, man, there's nobody better than that woman. I'll just have to tell you that. There was only 9 of us kids at home in our one-room log house, if you can imagine that. If Dad said, "You got to go stay with Aunt so-and-so," we knew we was getting another one, you know.
Oh, I tell you what, he was one of the fairest men I've ever been around. It didn't matter how popular he was, or, you know, if you wasn't popular, he treated you the same.
You know, I went on and graduated, went to school and became a teacher and a coach, and came back to the high school and eventually became principal. And when I became principal, I wanted to model myself after the people that I knew and stuff. Dr. Stanton, I wanted to be good with data and curriculum like he is. Steve Buckingham, I wanted to be able to get students involved in sports and other activities and build school spirit. Randy Smith, I didn't want to do the job very long like Randy did. Didn't want people to hate me like they did Marlon Box. But probably the person I most tried to pattern myself after was Mr. Willis, because Mr. Willis was fair. I think every kid would tell you that went through here. There may have been times that you were mad at him. There may have been times he had to get on to you, but he was fair. And you know, he knew sometimes when you needed to let you slide a little bit, and he knew sometimes when he needed to put the pressure down on you to get you straightened up. And that's a rare gift. And he was able to do that, and he helped influence a lot of students and helped a lot of students throughout his years.
I left, well, there kids come into my office wanting me to help them with different things. And I never hesitated to take time out to do that. And I also had a welcome invitation to them that anytime any one of them wanted to come here for one night, if they had a problem, they were willing to do so, able to do so. But not more than one night. Didn't want to take them to raise. And we did keep one kid a whole week here. The Hess boy got shot. They took him to, the parents took him to some hospital. So they asked me to keep the older boy here. So we did for a week. And well, that's okay. I didn't mind that.
My name is Carolyn Hess, and I first became aware of Mr. Willis when we moved here from Indiana in 1978. The next year we added our youngest son, Noel, to the mix as a freshman. And that's when probably Mr. Willis began to wish that he'd never heard of the Hesses. Noel was not a problem in and of himself, but in November of that year, he was injured in a gunshot accident, which left him a paraplegic. And he was in the hospital the remainder of that school year, and we were out of town a lot, gone a lot, and forever looking for places for the other 2 kids to stay. And you, John, picked up the slack and took Donald home with you at least one time for a few days, and maybe more. Quite frankly, it's been enough years that I can't remember. All in all, I would have to say that you, John, are the epitome of today's mission statement, every child, every day, whatever it takes, because you worked with all three of my younger children. You missed the oldest one. Don't think he would have given you too much grief. But I will forever have a soft spot in my heart for you, John Willis.
He liked kids. And I use the word like intentionally. There's a lot of people that care for kids. They love kids. But Mr. Willis liked them. And he liked hanging out with them, and he liked joking with them. He just liked them. And you felt that. It came through in your interactions with him, that he just liked being around kids.
John was a great principal and had great compassion for kids. Every decision he made was for the best interest of those students. You could tell that he really had a love for young people.
As a matter of fact, you know, my senior year, my father passed away early, and you know, he kind of made me finish high school. He kind of became a father at the same time. Probably didn't even know it. I didn't know it. He kind of filled that void. You know, there were times when one minute he was your principal, one minute you got a problem, he's trying to fix your problem. He was just he was always there. Not just me, but for every kid up there. You know, he was just there. Seemed to know your problem before you knew it sometimes.
Well, Mr. Willis, we all respected him very much. We were a little bit afraid of him. We did not want to get sent to his office, but you know, in looking back, I realize now that, you know, he loved every kid that was at the school, and all the kids really loved him. He was always happy. Can I ever remember seeing him when I thought he was in a bad mood. So I always, looking back, I realize how happy he was.
67, I came up here as principal. Well, I was in charge of maintenance, food service, transportation, and all of that 2 or 3 years. Nobody wants those jobs. And now they got it divided up, so somebody in each one of them, you know. And I also had to be substitute principal at Noel that year. And but when I started with that, we had these old schools like White Rock. They had a junk house, Rocky Comfort, and people gripe, said, "Oh, that school building was good enough." Well, you hear that all the time. You're never happy. And you got this thing, take recording.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you this thing. Hey, JB was the best hand I ever had in the maintenance division. One of the best. He and Joe Walter, you know, this one was taking care of the old buildings. And if we had a problem at any one of these old schools, and JB's wife taught it at the White Rock School, and he knew any problem. If it was a weekend problem, he went and took care of it. He didn't ask me or tell me or anything until the next Monday. And Joe would take care of Rocky or Southwest City or anywhere else too. Those two guys, yeah, they were good hands.
To tell you, you get to know John pretty well if you work under him. He was a good boss, though. The kind of guy that he would come out on the job with you, roll up his sleeves and help. And always had a smile on his face. One of those kind of bosses you look forward to having. You don't have many of them either. You get a little bit out of line or you're getting little problems or something, he can come to you and talk to you. And when he was through, you didn't feel like crawling underneath a rock. He would be able to help you out, and without hurting your feelings, in other words. Just, I guess you'd say, just use a little bit of country wisdom was John. And you know, you can't help but learn a little bit from a guy like that.
The other thing that stands out really would be his humility. He was just a common guy. He didn't think he was any better than anybody else. And one of the things that impressed me the most was to see him walking around with a mop in his hand. I just loved that. When he saw a spill or something on the floor, he didn't try to summon someone to do it. He just went and got a mop and mopped it up. And I've always remembered that, and I've used that a few times as an example of humility, and it really impressed me.
I was fortunate enough to land a teaching job in the McDonald County Schools in 1982. And fortunate for me, John Willis was my first principal. Probably more to learned from John in that 1 year that I had him as my principal is maybe what I've learned in all my years in the universities.
I do remember the first year I taught school was tough. It was hard. I mean, there are a lot of things you have to learn, and he was there to help me, encourage me. Matter of fact, if he hadn't, I'm not sure I'd have lasted to the second year, but you know, after that first year, the second year started, and things started making sense, you know, and everything kind of fell into place, and then 3 decades later, here I am.
I went back later on and became a teacher at McDonald County in the mid-'80s, and then Mr. Willis was my boss instead of my principal. So, and there were times when, you know, as a young teacher, I would go and talk to Mr. Willis, and you know, just maybe I needed some advice about how to handle a certain student, and it would be then maybe he would share some experience or share a little knowledge, just anything, just about as much as I needed to know, it seemed like.
Perry was an ornery little devil in school. Not mean, just ornery, because I liked that part of him. And anyway, right now Perry's one of my closest friends, you know. And I was real proud of him come in there, and heck, he was a good teacher. Well, as far as swatting, you know, I really didn't like to do it, but I was expected to straighten things out, and I didn't have any help much when we first started. They're still building, and I had Coach Kreth was here as a coach, and he was as good a counselor as I've ever had.
We didn't have a vice principal or nothing, you know. He was, and of course we didn't have the students they got now, you know, but he was one man, and you could not pull nothing over on that man. He had eyes in the back of his head, you know. He just knew it, what was going on at the school, you know.
Probably the only principal that ever knew my name, because I was probably a little too ornery. You didn't get away much, if anything.
He had a paddle down there, and boy, we knew we were in trouble. If we got sent to the office, you know, we knew he would oftentimes give us a choice. And we did not want him to call our parents, but he also had a paddle there, and we knew it was going to come. And he had a certain procedure that he used, and we would reach over the edge of his desk and grab the other side of it, which would put us in a prone position, so to speak. And Mr. Willis would be happy all this time. He was never mad, but and I mean to tell you, we were just scared to death. And he would take a warm-up swing like this was going to be it, and I'm telling you, we would nearly tear the front of his desk off, flinching, and he would really got a kick out of that. I can remember him getting me a few times, and boy, he would just laugh, and finally he'd give us a swat or two, and he'd say, "Now get back to class." And we knew at that point it was over. We knew that Mr. Willis wasn't mad at us or anything. It was just part of growing up, and we understood it.
Something I like about this area, though, man, they're all friendly. Everybody was, we weren't here in no time. We knew somebody in Southwest. We knew somebody in Powell. All the Anderson, I mean, not all the people, but everywhere we had a friend, you know. As far as I'm concerned, the school is running great right now. I mean, I hear no complaints. And the fact that my kids all went through school here, and they all graduated, and they're all, well, 3 of them are teachers and 1's a nurse. So that's something you can be proud of.
Mr. Willis, I appreciate you, and I've been teaching 33 years now. I appreciate you being patient with me those first few years of my career, and you know, I think about things that you taught me a lot of times in my teaching to this day.
I don't feel comfortable calling you John, so I'll refer to you as Mr. Willis, and I think you should feel very satisfied, very pleased with the legacy that you've left and the impact that you've made on a lot of kids. And we all knew that you cared about us, and you showed that in your interactions with the students. And so I just want to compliment you on your tremendous career, and this is a very well-deserved honor that the foundation is bestowing on you this evening. Thank you.
John, thanks for everything. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. McDonald County is a better place because you and your family. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you for being my principal, for being my mentor, and for being my friend, you know, and it meant a lot to me. In a lot of respects, I am who I am today because of people like you and Bill Mitchell and Roy Mason. You know, those guys, they did a lot for me in my younger years.
Mr. Willis, really appreciate everything you did for me, the entire class of 1980 and all the kids that came before us and the kids that came after us. You're a role model at a time when nowadays there's not a lot of them. We appreciate you. We appreciate Tracy, all your brothers and sisters, and your mom, all the time you spend away from you guys to spend with us. And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I could tell you a few, but I mean, this is going to be public, so I better not tell them, you know. John's probably sweating right now if he knew he's interviewing me. So, no, I just think, good Lord, that I got an opportunity to know John. He's just that kind of guy. So, everybody liked him, that includes me.